for the reading glasses. Well, I welcome you here. And to let you know, because I know you guys get really concerned when you don't see Danielle, she is not sick. She was asked to read poetry at the Unity of the Woodlands, so that's where she is today. So we wish her an amazing time, and we want her to hurry back. They can't keep her. We're very proprietary over our Danielle. So, but I want to welcome you into this morning and join me in the inner healing experience. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin the inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner acceptance and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me. Sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling, I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging the higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of the infinite presence, I simply speak these words. I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive everyone and anyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, now I say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only constructive, positive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I am willing to accept as real for me this coming week. Visualizing the idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. Family member, friend, mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who's not physically present in the room this morning, and I turn to that image in mind and say, I am grateful for the good in your life. I now open my eyes to the world around me and turn joyfully to the person next to me or on this broadcast and share my gratitude and confidence by saying, I am grateful for the good in your life. Grateful.
Well, it's that time of year when, hello, it's nice to see. This is more than we usually have on Sundays. Thank you for being here. And those of you watching online, this is the time of year when we go over the basics of this teaching. The basics of this teaching. And we spend the rest of the year applying what we learn about the basics of this teaching. So I hope that's what you've come for today, and I think you're going to be entertained and find this useful as well. For those of you who are following at home and want a book reference, today or these next 4 talks are out of the first 4 introductory chapters to a book called The Science of Mind, which we call our textbook. And today is The Thing Itself, the first of those 4. And so I'm going to free associate like I do, but it's tethered somewhat to that body of material. So what we're doing here is discussing a spiritual psychology by which we come into, you and I, into right relationship with the source of our own being. A relationship that has never been problematic on the side of that source, but has often been problematic on the side of our understanding of it. You see, there's a divine nature, and for the next few weeks, or maybe the rest of my life, I'm going to refer to God with you as the divine nature. I finally learned my lesson about this. For all these years, it's been God or source or spirit, and people are like, what? And spirit, they think of phantoms of the beyond, and God has emotionally loaded connotations with many of us. Many of us fled the God of our early upbringing to come to a teaching like this. So every time I say God, it's a trigger word, and I finally come to realize it. I've been trying to say, well, I don't mean that. I mean this and this, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work because the stimulation, the kind of cortical response is still there. So I'm going to call it the divine nature. All right? Can we go with that? The divine nature is within you. It's been associated typically with a person, a time, and a place. It's been associated with the Messiah, or a sage, or some wise one who wrote years ago. And then the time in which they worked, when they ministered, when they did their thing. And it's been associated with the place where they did that, and the places that have issued from that, like houses of worship that exist to this day, in the name of their founder, in the name of that Messiah or that great mind, that great heart who lived at some point. The divine nature has been associated, kind of thumbtacked to these persons and times and places. What we do in this teaching is remove that limitation. Because the divine nature, if you get nothing else out of these talks, then get this. The divine nature is in everything. It is everything, expressing at the level of what that thing is. It is every person expressing at the level of what that person feels themselves to be. The divine nature is present in every rock and cloud and tree and blade of grass. And those things have an experience of it that is a lot cleaner, a lot neater and tidier than the experience we often have of it, because they don't question it. They don't judge it. The blade of grass and the stone and the cloud and so on, they don't look at themselves and say, I'm not worthy of being an expression of the divine nature. They just get busy doing what they do. And even a rock gets busy. They don't look busy, but they get busy. What are they doing? They're being what they are for as long as they are that. And when they go to sand, then they're that. And when things evaporate, when the ice melts and evaporates back into the clouds, then it's busy being that, you know. But these things in nature, which is why so many of the wise ones over time have said, look at nature. Go look at nature. You want a lesson in spirituality, go look at nature. Nature doesn't question its own presence. It doesn't question its own right to be here. Have you ever done that? Sure you have. So have I. All of us do. Jesus the Christ did. All the great spiritual teachers have, that we have record of. At some point in time, they've said, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm up to this. This is too big a task for me. You're asking me to forgive. You're asking me to, you know. So we all question this. And therein lies the rub. The divine nature is in us, but it's not the only thing that's in us. The divine nature and human nature. And human nature is the culmination of all our thoughts about who we are in relationship to life, how we stack up. Psychologists would say this goes all the way back to birth order, you know, things like that. Environment, genetics. We examine ourselves, we critique ourselves, compare ourselves to everybody else, and often find ourselves wanting. So when the story comes along that the divine nature sits in the clouds somewhere and judges you and has a set of rules of conduct that it expects you to follow and will punish you if you don't, we fall in line typically behind that idea. It makes a lot of sense. And we've talked about this a lot here, especially recently. I think back in early December, I was talking about the idea of Father God. Oh, there's that word again. Sorry. But, you know, it's a convenient idea. You look around, you say, well, in the family, there's the head of the thing is the patriarch, you know, and so the divine presence, the deity, you know, must be that and must behave that way. Only the dad in the family has mood swings and maybe has a drinking problem and, you know, isn't happy at work or isn't happy in the marriage or isn't happy just generally and stuff. And so this isn't true, of course, of all of them, but it's true of enough of them that it's a terrifying thought to think that all that power gets handed off to the only power there is, which runs the entire universe. And not only that, it's watching you. It's watching you. And not only your actions, but your thoughts. See, you can't hide from it. Well, this scares the hell out of people. It really does. And some say, well, I've got to make a more determined effort to behave and be a better person. And that's not a bad thing to do. But you're never going to get good enough in the eyes of this one if that's the story that you tell yourself about it, that it knows every last fleeting thought that you have. And it's got, again, rules of conduct that were written down ages ago and stuff. And so this is why people have a conflicted relationship with spiritual matters. They don't want to talk about it. You want to empty the seat next to you on an airplane? Strike up a conversation about religion. I don't know where they'll go, not out the window, but they'll, excuse me, you know, it's an alarming thing to people. So what are we trying to do here? What is Ernest Holmes trying to do back in the day? Well, he wasn't trying to. Here's what he wasn't trying to do. He wasn't trying to say, okay, I'm the new Messiah. Over here, new Messiah, got the new revelation, everybody fall in line behind this, got the new list of rules. No, what he said is there's something at the heart of every spiritual yearning that is true, that is holy, and that is just, that is fair, you know. He said there's a principle at work here by which things occur. It's not done to us, sort of paraphrasing and somewhat mangling the words of Jesus, it's not done to us as something else thinks it should be. It's done to us as we feel we earn, as we feel inside ourselves. All true spiritual practice is personal. All true spiritual practice is singular. Yeah, we get together in groups like we're having here today. But the experience that each one of us is having of the divine in us is unique to us. That's why we're here. If somebody else could have that experience for you, you could have stayed home. And by home I meant you could have stayed uncreated. And somebody else could have had it for you and mailed it in. But instead, we do our own work. We evaluate our relationship with the divine nature and any impediments that we may have put between ourselves and that. Through fear, through a sense of separation. The sense of separation thing, let's talk about that a moment, because it's so simple it takes a lot of explaining. Does that make sense? But I get asked about this a lot by people who read the stuff I write, especially in some of you all. The sense of separation. Is it real? Yes and no. The separation isn't real. The sense of separation is. Does that make sense? Okay? You've never been separated from the source of your own being. You couldn't be. There's nothing so awful you could do where you wouldn't be part of the divine nature, which is not to say there wouldn't be consequences for it, but you still would be part of the divine nature. You can't leave the divine nature. There's nowhere else to go. It's infinite. It is absolutely everywhere. That's the good news. The other news is that we can feel ourselves to be separate from it. And there it is within us, and there it is all around us, and we say, not unto me, not unto me. I'm not worthy. I don't deserve. See, I don't happen to think that everybody's worthy of a Rolls Royce. I don't happen to think that everybody's worthy of, zillions of dollars. Why? Because you got to work for it. You got to have an idea. There's something, that's not how, the universe is not a cosmic vending machine, which is a point I'll come back to in later talks. That's not the idea here. The point of this whole thing is that we should know ourselves. Then if we want a Rolls Royce, we work for it and we set aside money or I don't know, whatever. And then when we have the thing, we look at it and we say, well, now, am I going to drive this to the supermarket? This thing, it's so precious, I got to leave it. Then you got to get another car, don't you, to take you where you want to go. See, it's not about stuff. It's not about, hey, if I pray the right way, then God will favor me with great things. It is about healing. You can always speak the word about healing. We can speak it about anything, but you can speak it effectively and believe your own word when you speak about healing. There's a divine intelligence that flows throughout the body. Why? Because the divine nature is everywhere. That intelligence is already present within me, and I affirm and know that that intelligence is doing now what needs to be done to restore to wellness and wholeness every part of myself, something like that. And then you get specific about it. You speak your word in this way. You're affirming your relationship in the divine nature. We start often with affirmations, simple little things. Today is a wonderful day. The critical mind says, what about it makes it wonderful? How is this different from yesterday or last Tuesday or, And so we tell the critical mind, thank you, now hush. Just sit down a minute and let me do this thing. And we affirm today's a wonderful day today. And all of a sudden the metabolism, is like more functional and thoughts are coming to mind and there's a peace in the heart and life is a little bit better. You still don't have the Rolls Royce. You still haven't won, a gazillion dollars. But life is a little bit better. And we affirm as we go along. Every day in every way. This came up a few weeks ago. Emile Coué, I misattributed it to Florence Scovel's Shin, but I think she copped it from Emile Coué. Every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. Every day in every way, I'm getting better. It's not general. It's not specific. It's very general. Every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. Say that often enough to yourself, and you start to believe it. And that's the point of affirmations, is you start to believe these things. And when you start to believe these things, you start to live as though they were true. And when you start to live as though they were true, the line between them being true and not true sort of disappears. And all of a sudden, you feel better about yourself. It's like self-confidence. It's like self-esteem. You affirm to yourself, I am enough to meet every situation, rise to every occasion. I have big creative ideas flowing through me. I know exactly what to do and when and how to do it. You say that to yourself, and you start to feel it. And you start to live that way, and it makes you a more effective person. And you do better in job interviews. And you do better in general conversation, and all of a sudden, it's like when you say to yourself, Dale Carnegie, he's worth a read. He was a contemporary of Holmes, the guy who said how to win friends and influence people, because it was sales, influence that way, But you say to yourself, I have confidence in who I am. I believe in who I am. All of a sudden, people see you walk by, they say, that person, they have confidence in themselves. Next time I have a question, or next time I need a listening ear, I'm going to choose that person who has confidence in themselves rather than being this big ball of neuroses. So, by re-educating ourselves in the idea, which all goes back to the thing itself, that there is a divine nature that is everywhere present, we get healthier, we get better. We kind of come home to roost, and it's been described as a returning, this idea that we come full circle, that we were born in wholeness and perfection, and by born I don't mean just here in this body and in this life, but in eternity. We were created or emerged or whatever happened. We don't know what happened. There's a lot of mystery about all of this too, I should add. But we showed up, right? We showed up. And we showed up in wholeness and perfection and grace and beauty and wonder and all these sort of things. And little by little we chipped away at our own confidence at our own because we believed in separation. We fell into that, some more than others, And as we heal the sense of separation, we come full circle back to that innocence, trust, wonder. And this was the whole message of the Christmas season for us in metaphysics. The birth of the child. Who do you suppose that child is? It's within you. It's your child nature. It's also Jesus the Christ in history 2,000 some years ago. But for our intents and purposes here, it's the birth of the childlike awareness in us, which doesn't mean, nonverbal or uneducated or naive, as much as it means trusting, willing, open, wondering, judging a little bit, because you can't help but judge as a human. But children look around, and every day, and we went over this at Christmas, every time a Christmas rolls out, a child looks at it, oh, it's new, it's wonderful. And you get to be 38 or 72 or something, and you say, I've seen enough of these things come and go, and it's just another blah, blah, it's just how much this is going to cost. That's that jaded thing that we do as grown-ups. You know why we do it? To keep our hearts safe. It's armor, okay? It's psychological self-defense. You can't bother me. That's all. It's like, because if I let you in, then I have to feel something. And we've been afraid of our own feelings, which is why metaphysics, though simple, is not a study for the faint of heart, because it will take you back to your own issues. It will take you back to self-discovery. It will take you back to where you hid your own power a long time ago, where you gave your power away to circumstances a long time ago. I'll never love again, we said, and right? Because we had our hearts broken in the 8th grade. And who doesn't have their heart broken in the 8th grade? And we didn't do anything wrong. Let me bring that up here. This isn't about you made bad judgments and got feeling separate and all the rest of this. It was unavoidable. It was unavoidable because if there's a purpose for life, human life I mean, it is that we should do the inevitable in order to heal it up and then do the possible. I just made that up. That's not a meme yet. I just made that up. And what I mean by that is that's the story of the fall. That's the story of the biblical fall, is their eyes were open and they judged. You see, we get to the place where we start judging, we start making up our own story, and then we're trapped in our own story, and our liberation from our own story is the redemption that follows. And there are some who say this is the subtext, the esoteric subtext of the Judeo-Christian Bible. Now, I don't know that we'd all want to go that far, but it works metaphorically to realize that it's inevitable that you're going to judge and feel separate at some point, and then you have to do something about it. So what do you do about it? All right, this. Coming here to a place like this, actually or virtually, is a wonderful thing to do. Reading books. Ernest Holmes and all the New Thought literature and all the similar literature and occult and esoteric literature and Christian and Jewish and Hindu and Muslim literature and all of that taken, that's a wonderful thing to do. But the best thing you can do, oh, and you can follow the advice of other people too and follow their example, but the best thing you can do is go into your own spiritual dimension, go to the divine nature in you and say, are you there? Then show yourself. Then show yourself. Sit down, get quiet, and ask the divine nature to show itself to you, through you, and it will. And it will. How it will, I cannot tell you. The list is endless. The possibilities are infinite, you know. It will show up in the room with you. It will show up in a dream state. It will show up in the phone ringing and it's a conversation you hadn't expected to have. It will show up in the passages of a book. It will show up in the voice of another person. It will show up in the voice of a bird outside your window. But it will show up. And it will tell you things that have been captured in print, like you are my beloved child, and it will tell you that you're all right, and it will tell you that you're good enough, and it will also tell you what you have to work on without putting it in those terms. Because it knows that putting it in those terms would run you off. I'm glad you asked. Now, here's what you have to work on. No, it will guide you to these things experientially. It will guide you to these things experientially, as will your affirmations, which are a stimulant to the divine nature making itself known through you. This is why we affirm these things. It's been called awaken the sleeping giant. I think it was Bill Hornaday called it that. And it means to awaken the divine nature within you so that it presents itself for your clear and unmistakable understanding and gives you an anchor going forward. And then you continue to do this. You continue to check in with it, divine nature, as though it were kind of in a way as though it were something other than you, but it isn't. But we set up a dialogue with it, you know, and it's a script. It looks like two parties are speaking, when in fact it's your higher self and your other self. It's your unity actually calls it your superconscious. There's conscious and subconscious, and then above that is your superconscious. So however you want to style it, but you're in dialogue with this thing. And it says to you, cast your burdens on me. Cast your burdens on me. And so the stories that we made up and the lies that we told ourselves and the rules that we made and then broke and all the societal expectations that were placed on us that we seem to have blown in some way, all of that gets processed. All of that gets understood. And we realize at no point in any of that was there any lasting judgment. We've never been wrong. We've never been any. There's a song by, I want to say, David Alt. I could do worse if I'm wrong. He's a fabulous songwriter. David, how could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your living is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. Isn't that magnificent? How could anyone ever tell you? You know, if anyone ever told you that you're anything less than beautiful and wonderful and whole, what do you think they thought about themselves? What kind of unconscious burden do you think they were trying to work off by roping you into that? Okay? There you have it. Hurt people hurt people. How can anyone fail to notice? How can anyone fail to notice how magnificent you are? Because they were stuck in their own stuff. They had their heads down, looking at the ground instead of the stars. And so, in conclusion for today, I'm going to nag, I'm going to harp. Here's a great word, cavil. C-A-V-I-L. I'm going to cavil, which is like nag and worry you forever about one thing. It's not about giving money. It's not about showing up every week. It's not about doing volunteer service, although, may I say, those are very wonderful things. It's about spiritual practice. Go into your heart. Go into the source for your own being in a quiet time and say, show me who I am. And show me that which is mine to do. And I bring up that line in memory of the late beloved Reverend Marshall Lehman, who said that all the time. You know, ask what is yours to do? What is mine to do? And you'll find it's fun, it's exciting, it's rewarding, and it's next week's topic. So, for that, I let you go now. You're going to hear, I don't want to pile on, so you're going to hear a spiritual mind treatment at the end of the service by Reverend Lisa Ryan that is a key part of our spiritual practice. So pay close attention when you next see her on this stage for that. Thank you.
So, the first thing that the weekly email said was actually thanking everybody for all their generous support throughout 2023, and we do appreciate everything you do. We hope you continue to support us. You know, our mission is to get the words that you heard Reverend Jesse talking about this morning out to the world, because it's a positive message, and if the world needs anything right now, it needs a positive message. So if you would like to join us in that, you can contribute in many ways. You can actually contribute your time, you can contribute your money, and we appreciate everything that you do. So say with me now, divine love through me multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
And since we're the basics, now let me see if I can do this without screwing it up. What are the 5 steps of treatment? I could tell you the 7 steps, and I've even heard rumors of 9, but I haven't been able to chase the 9 down. Oh, of course you have the 9, so I'll find out what the 9 are. But for all intents and purposes today, the 5 steps of treatment, okay? Recognition. There is 1. Unification. We are a part of that 1. Realization. Well, what is it that you want? Because it already exists in the mind of God. That's the good news. Gratitude. And as I like to say, gratitude will get you everywhere. And release. And let's be honest, that's the hardest part, right? Letting go. Letting go and letting God. Letting go, letting our divine nature. Listening for the guidance that will bring into our experience that which we are realizing. Which is why Ernest uses the uprooting the plant method. We are planting that seed in the divine nature. Let's not go pulling it up and looking at the roots. We got to give the roots a chance to get in there. All right? So let's see what this looks like. There is 1 power, 1 presence, 1 life, 1 love. I am a part of that. I live that life. I am a vessel for that presence. That power flows through me. And I am that love. Just as I know that each and every one of you are as well. We are divine channels for love. So in this coming week, we dig more fully into our divine nature. We get to know who we are. We go to that spiritual dimension and we say, show yourself. And the divine does. In the infinite and myriad ways that the divine will. The ideas that we are working on are planted firmly. The guidance that we seek comes to us easily. That which we are working on flows gently and easily through our hands. Our interactions with people are the beloved children of God meeting. And whatever it is in the world that needs to be is already on its way. And I know this with all of the gratitude in my being. I am grateful for a teaching that teaches me who I am. I am grateful for a community where I get to come and be with my fellow godlings. I am grateful for this place. I am grateful for our ministers. I am grateful for our practitioners. I am grateful for our musicians. I am grateful for each and every one of you. And I am grateful because grateful is just another way of love. And I release my word into the law, which always says yes, with love. And so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust
I
it.
use it.
I use
And
it.
I love it.
And I love it.
So it is.
And so it is.